Hey, welcome. It's been a little bit since I've done a live, and it's been a lot of things going on. I went and bought a house, went and did a lot of moving. It's anybody who's moved in their life knows it's an incredibly painful process to move. Closing one chapter of my life and opening up another one, and here I am. Finally finding the time and or the getting over the anxiety hump of jumping back on a live because, dude, it can be, especially for somebody with social anxiety disorder, the struggle can be real getting back on here. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Here we are today. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Younger Dryas cataclysm theory. For those that don't know what that is, maybe I'm spouting off nothing here, nonsense. So the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis proposes that a catastrophic extraterrestrial event such as a comet or asteroid impact triggered the onset of the Younger Dryas period around 12,900 years ago. This period was marked by a sudden and dramatic cooling of Earth's climate lasting approximately 1,200 years. And if you've ever watched, there's a show on Netflix that pretty much summarizes all of the guys' work I'm going to mention. It's called Ancient Apocalypse. Take a minute, watch that. Obviously look at the critics, look at the opposite arguments, because it's important to have a healthy skepticism when looking into any kind of things like this. But it's also very important to note that regardless of what side of the fence you're on, it's really speculation. We're literally speculating on stuff that, happened, again, 12,900 years ago. And we don't truly know the answers, regardless of which direction you go on. And I'm a pretty big fan of Graham Hancock myself. I've read pretty much almost all of his books now. I'm actually reading, what is this one called that I've been reading right now? I'm drawing a brain fart here, but wow, Magicians of the Gods. Sorry, hey, I'm live here. Sometimes the struggle is real. So I've been reading Magicians of the Gods. One of his earlier books is Fingerprints of the Gods, and essentially the things he's investigating in these books is the possibility that civilization as we know it is actually much older than we have been led to believe. Like, use the Göbekli Tepe, for example. It's dated back to just about the same time as the Younger Dryas, about 12,900 years ago, and it basically marks the separation of when we were hunter-gatherers and all of a sudden started building monuments. How do we go again from hunter-gatherer societies to building astronomically aligned monuments? That's something that nobody's been able to explain. And a lot of people think that he's jumping to serious conclusions, jumping through a lot of mental hoops, but this dude does the legwork that very few people are willing to do. Like, we're putting together, just massive amounts of data. He is not making, leaps. Like, some people will literally just make up stories. You know what I mean? Make up stories for a video and be like, oh yeah, this is what I believe happened based on, just random stuff that they conjure up from the internet. And that's what a lot of conspiracy videos end up doing, is conjuring up nonsense that, people will eat up because, obviously you're trying to make money out here, right? So that's why, like, I used to be obsessed with conspiracy theories, obsessed with all kinds of stuff like that. And you start to realize that a lot of it is crap, but there's also a lot of it that's true, and a lot of it that's been proven true over and over again. So, back to the idea of Graham Hancock, like, if you ever really want a different perspective on any of this stuff, like ancient civilizations, read this dude's books. Like, don't read, maybe look a little bit into the criticisms of him, of course, because it's healthy to have some criticism. It's healthy to be skeptical of some stuff, but he's literally not making massive leaps. Okay. It's literally based off like data that is being pulled from all these different sources all over the world. But anyway, let's see if I got this. My chat working here. Nope. Chat still doesn't work for me on this. Oh well, the struggle be real. You know what it is. Anyway, back to the idea of the Younger Dryas Cataclysm theory. So, some key points. This is a very controversial theory. So many scientists would argue that the evidence is inconclusive and that other factors such as changes in the ocean circulation could explain the Younger Dryas period. Critics also point to the lack of definitive impact crater. So again, this is a theory that suggests that a comet hit the Earth, essentially dragged up a bunch of dust into the air, made the Earth cool. And so during the period of the Younger Dryas, it began abruptly about the end of the last ice age. Temperatures dropped significantly, leading to a return of glacial conditions in some areas. Many large animals, including mammoths, mastodons, I think a large species of beaver, North American beaver, went extinct during this time. So the Younger Dryas period is also associated with the significant changes in human societies, including the transition from hunter-gatherers to agriculture in some regions. And there's really no explanation. Again, there's no explanation that science has been able to come up with that adequately explains how we go from a hunter-gatherer society to all of a sudden, knowing how to, farm crops, grow, domesticate animals, et cetera, et cetera. But, we are taught in school that it is a certain way. And again, I had comments about the idea that history may be, slightly flawed. People get really, really up in arms about the idea that things that we've been taught or things that we believe could possibly be wrong, because it really affects your worldview to really do this. And honestly, dude, you look at any of the criticisms online for any alternative hypothesis like this, and people are just toxic about it. And why is that? Why is it that when you ask a question like, could there possibly have been an advanced civilization prior to us that taught us all this information that were perhaps wiped out by a cataclysmic event? Why is it that people get up in arms about that? When all over the world, you literally have stories of gods, so to speak, giving the gift of civilization to people after cataclysmic flooding or cataclysmic, destruction of land, etc. There's literally, these stories exist all over the planet. And yes, there could obviously be rational explanations or other, explanations for how this happened. But you can't just rule out the idea that this could be possible. The only reason people get really up in arms about it is because, it's outside of what we've been taught our whole lives. And to be honest, the impact on human history, if this was correct, right? So if this theory is correct, it could have profound implications for human history. The sudden climate change and environmental disruption would have forced humans to adapt and innovate, potentially accelerating development in cultures and other technologies. It would force us to relook at our history altogether, rewrite history. If there was an advanced civilization before us, who was this? And, one of the key arguments that people always have is, where is the evidence of these civilizations? Why can't we find it? It's a solid question. You know what I mean? But I think that the ocean hides quite a bit of stuff, and that could be the key here, one of the keys. And, one of the weird things about Göbekli Tepe is it was deliberately buried. So not only is this an astronomically aligned monument that nobody can really explain, it was inexplicably just randomly buried. So it was quickly buried, and that's why it's been preserved so well. So it's like somebody essentially buried and preserved a time capsule for future generations to find. Now, why is it that they would do that? And there's people who have run, different scientists who have run astronomical models on it, and they've found that there's literally astronomical messages encoded into the monument, and it's about a future time. It's interesting. I think personally that the ancient peoples knew that as we go throughout the Milky Way galaxy, as we're rotating, we sometimes go into points where we come in close contact with comets and whatnot. And there's times in the past where we've been literally destroyed by comets. We know that for a fact that the dinosaurs were wiped out by an asteroid or a comet, whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, why is it that this kind of stuff couldn't happen? So it is also important to note that the impact theory has got a national, like a worldwide team of scientists that are investigating it. And the amount of evidence they have found that suggests there was a extraterrestrial impact, a comet impact around 12,900 years ago is all over the place. It's no longer a matter of if it happened, or when it happened, or if it actually did happen. It really did. And the idea that where is the crater for this? I'm sweating. It's like 85 degrees in my house, bro. Whew, I need to fork out the money for some AC now. But hey, oh well, here we go. We live in Washington. The idea of having an AC is crazy. But so some of the pieces of evidence for the Younger Dryas or the impact event is the presence of a thin layer of platinum and other rare elements found at various locations around the world, suggesting a widespread event. Microspherules and nanodiamonds, these microscopic particles are often associated with impact events that have been found in Younger Dryas age sediments, a black mat, a dark organic rich layer found in some locations, which some researchers link to widespread wildfires caused by the impact. Climate abruptness, the rapid onset and end of the Younger Dryas period suggest a catastrophic event as a trigger. So these are all things that they explain into heavy detail. If you read into Graham Hancock's book, I don't really know. I don't know the exact name of the team of scientists that is investigating this, but it's not like a crackpot thing. These are real scientists seeking out real hard evidence. And one of the places that they use to, investigate is the Scablands in Washington State, which is not actually that far from me. It's like 3.5 hours, and it's something that I want to go to. And what the Scablands are is essentially it looks as though they, it was formed by, catastrophic flooding. And some have written it off that it was, flooding from Lake Missoula, I think from like glacial Lake Missoula. And there's just that's the theory, right? So the theory is that the North American ice sheet was struck by a comet, essentially, or maybe an airburst, so it blew up in the air and then melted massive amounts of this ice sheet, which caused catastrophic flooding. And it wasn't just said to be one impact from this comet. It was said to have hit all over the place. And again, this could explain for the mass, the worldwide flood myths that literally they're all over the place. You look at the flood myths, it's not just from the Bible. People think that the flood myths are just came from the Bible. Absolutely not. There's flood myths from cultures all over the planet. People going underground to escape a cataclysm, people, going up into the mountains, people going into caves. Caves are the same thing as underground, but you get my drift here, right? People building boats. It's not, I don't believe that those are stories. I believe that this actually happened. But anyway, this is something I wanted to get on and talk about for a little bit. I can see that my child is having struggles keeping my other kid busy, but this is definitely, something that truly interests me. Again, I've been obsessed with Graham Hancock's books myself, but I, recommend looking into any of this stuff. Read Magicians of the Gods, Fingerprints of the Gods, and keep your mind open to the idea that, again, what if, civilization is essentially much older than we've been led to believe? I am not necessarily saying I believe it. I'm not necessarily saying I'm a skeptic as much as I talk about this stuff. It's just interesting to talk about. It's interesting to open your mind and think outside the box. People really get up in arms. People get all bent out of shape. Freaking come at you in the comments like, "Oh, you look exactly like the type of person that would believe in this." Oh yeah, thanks, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, can't change the way I look, right? I love it. People are so freaking toxic out here sometimes, and it's funny because we all need an outlet. Whether your outlet is out here watching TV all day, consuming everything you read on the internet, whatever it is that you want to do. Mine's reading books and learning about alternative viewpoints on history and or alternative viewpoints on spirituality. Because if you stay trapped in this little tiny box, you will never be more than what you are. That's something I want you to think about. You will never be more than what you are. Yeah, I just repeated myself. Hey, accept it, bro. I can do whatever it is that I want. I can talk about whatever it is that I want because this is my channel, right? Just like, if you had a show, you could talk about whatever it is that you want. But keep it weird out here, my friends. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day.